In recent centuries, we've built our societies around a rising supply of cheap fossil fuel energy. But it wasn't always like this. More importantly, it won't always be like this. Fossil fuels are finite resources. Annual production peaks and then declines as they're used up. Indeed, this has happened in 40 of the 54 oil-producing nations in the world. In only 14 of these countries is oil production still increasing. Globally, oil production is still increasing, but only just. All the easy oil and gas in the world has pretty much been found. Now comes the harder work in finding and producing oil from more challenging environments and work areas. It is pretty clear that there is not much chance of finding any significant quantity of new cheap oil. Any new or unconventional oil is going to be expensive. Predictions on the timing of peak oil include the possibilities that it has recently occurred, that it will occur shortly, or that it will plateau for up to 100 years, but many predict a decline beginning around 2020. Meanwhile, demand for oil is still increasing, as population rises, but more importantly, as the consumption demand of each individual increases. With fossil fuels becoming more expensive to extract, and demand exceeding supply, prices are rising. At the same time, one of the main things we do with fossil fuels, burning them for energy, causes pollution that is damaging not only local environments, but global climate stability. Greenhouse gases trap heat and have kept the Earth's temperature at one suitable for humans. But by adding more of them to the atmosphere, we're creating global warming and climate change. It has been estimated that if we burn all the reserves of fossil fuels that are left, we'll put the equivalent of 5 times more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere than we can if we want to avoid catastrophic consequences. We need to leave 4/5 of the world's reserves of fossil fuels in the ground. As well as these, and connected to these two challenges, our economic system is creaking. We have massive economic inequality and growing turmoil. It feels overwhelming, but there are things we can do. In Transition Stroud, we like to say, on our own we can make a difference. Together, we can change the world.
We have a repair cafe, what we call Fix It for Free. It was an idea in Holland about how do you reduce landfill, fix things, create a neighbourhood, a sense of doing something towards reducing climate change, reducing the need for oil.
Today I had a record player which wasn't working, turned out to be a broken wire connected to the needle. So I took the needle off, the arm off and soldered the wire back together, and it's now working. It seems such a waste to throw all this stuff away when it's something as simple as quite often dirty contacts or a loose wire. It's a good thing for everybody because they've come here, got their product working again. We've saved it being thrown away and them having to buy a new one. And hopefully they bought a cup of coffee and enjoyed the cake here at the same time. Bit of trade for the cafe as well.
Well, I brought this toaster, which was en route to the tip. It's an eco toaster, so the lid shuts when the toast is cooking to save electricity, which sounds fine, but the lid jammed. And it's been fixed, so I'm absolutely delighted.
We are in the future going to get a lot of shocks to our community as climate change comes and as the price of oil goes up. And therefore, what we're needing to do increasingly is to become a community and respond to those crises and those shocks.
It's a bit more mainstream now. We used to say this is where we live is the one with the solar panels. Now there's about 4 in our street, which is great. From about March to October, we don't need to use the gas to heat the water at all. Even over the winter, it heats at 20-25 degrees, so it's just topping it up. So when we first moved in, there was probably a few inches of insulation, which was the regulation at the time. So we cleared the attic, and we've got, I think it's 200 mils now. Rather than spending money on a slow cooker and paying for the electric to keep it warm for hours and hours, you boil it up so it's really hot and then put it into this insulated box long enough for it to finish cooking. 4 years ago we put in the wood burner. We have it on And then about half an hour before we go to bed, we open the door and a bit of heat goes upstairs, and that's enough just to warm the bedrooms up a bit. All our lights are low energy. When we have the radiators on, we've got reflectors, reflects the heat back. So about 10% of our heat dissipates through our walls generally.
It's the localness of the food, and also the sort of quite cooperative way it's done, and it's a much more satisfying way of shopping, and you know where everything comes from, and it's really fresh, and it is really delicious, and it's not all packaged up. You go online and you have to order by the end of Wednesday evening, and you sign in, and then you look through all the list, and you just pick out what you want and send an email saying that you've done it, how you're going to pay. And then you come along and pick it up on Saturday morning.
I'm Greg, and I'm the owner of Stroud Brewery. Stroud Brewery is a craft brewery or a microbrewery. We brew traditional ales and a whole range of ales, and we also brew organic and vegan bottle beers. We ask for our barley to come all from the Cotswolds, so the majority of the barley malt that goes into our beers is grown with about 15 miles radius of the brewery. Our policy on local ingredients and local malt, I think, is valued in Stroud in a way that it wouldn't be in other areas. Our ethos really reflects the ethos that makes up Stroud, and Transition Stroud is very much part of that. So now we sell to pubs, which is our main market. We sell direct to the public, and we do that either to take home or in our bars today. And then our bottles will go to local cafes, local restaurants. We don't sell any of our beer to supermarkets. We don't believe in supermarkets. We feel that they undervalue our beer. It brings the value of our beer down, but also they undermine our core customers, which is the pubs. The brewery is totally open to the public on a bar night. I think the reason it's so popular is that we're very family and child friendly. So it's a place where people can come with their families and feel comfortable. I think the transition movement has just raised awareness of sustainability issues in general, and we see much greater interest in local food, local provenance.
How are the people of Stroud going to survive when resources are low, when resources run out? We're not going to be able to survive perhaps the way we are surviving now. We're going to have to say, let's do things slightly differently. So we've got to look at transport, we've got to look at textiles, where do our things come from? We've got to look at food, who grows it, who prepares it, how do we cook it, all those kinds of things. We have a website, transitionstroud.org, and we have leaflets that go around town. We have an email newsletter that you can join, and that doesn't just talk about what Transition Stroud as an organisation is doing, but it talks about what's happening in Stroud that is helping us transition into a lower carbon, much more fun life.